A group of corrupt cops is celebrating in court after being acquitted. They feel like they've outsmarted the system, joking and high-fiving each other, convinced they've escaped punishment once again. The mood is light, but that changes quickly when the door opens. A woman walks in confidently, their new boss, someone they never expected. They thought they could easily intimidate her, but now she's in charge, and she's not here to join their celebration. The energy in the room shifts instantly, from victory to tension. Something unexpected is about to happen. Lina Rodriguez, the new chief of police, stands before them with calm authority. She doesn't need to shout or demand attention. The room is already focused on her. The officers' smug smiles slowly disappear as they realize she's not like anyone they've dealt with before. "I'm sure you all think you've won today," Lina says, her voice steady. "But let me make one thing clear. You've been playing a dangerous game and it's over." The officers exchange worried glances, trying to act tough. They hoped Lina would be another weak figurehead, but she's not. She looks them in the eye, showing no fear. "You think today's court case means you're untouchable, but you're wrong. There's no room for corruption in this department." One senior officer, who had been celebrating the most, tries to brush it off. "What's this about? We did our job, and the court cleared us. What more do you want?" Lina's gaze never wavers as she faces him, making it clear this is just the beginning. Lina's voice grew sharper as she spoke. "Your actions go beyond what happens in a courtroom. The things you've done, the way you've manipulated the system, it's all going to be exposed." The senior officer shifted nervously in his seat, realizing that this wasn't a conversation he could simply brush off with an excuse. He had always believed his badge and experience would protect him, but Lina was showing him that nothing was as secure as he had thought. "The truth is, I've already reviewed your records," Lina continued, her voice cutting through the tension. "You've been involved in countless incidents of misconduct. This isn't just about a few mistakes. It's a pattern of abuse, taking advantage of the very power you're supposed to uphold." The room fell silent as the officers, once full of confidence, exchanged uneasy glances. They had always gotten away with their actions, but today, Lina was calling them out. She wasn't just another boss. She was here to change everything. Lina's voice grew stronger as she spoke again. "I've gathered everything, every report, every complaint, every piece of evidence. The truth is coming to light, and there will be consequences." The officers remained quiet, their earlier arrogance now replaced with nervousness. The shift from confidence to uncertainty was clear. They were beginning to understand the gravity of the situation. They were no longer in control. Lina was. "I'm not here to play games," Lina said, her tone now intense. "You will face the consequences for every action, every abuse of power, and every innocent life you've impacted. It's time for real change, and it starts now." A low murmur spread through the group as the officers realized Lina wasn't bluffing. She had already started making changes, and they were going to be held accountable. The atmosphere in the room shifted from victory to fear. The officers who had once thought they were untouchable now knew they were facing a force they couldn't control. Lina was in charge, and she was determined to bring the change the department desperately needed. The officers began to feel the weight of Lina's words. But now, Lina wasn't just speaking. She was revealing something they hadn't expected. "Here's the truth," Lina said, her gaze locked on the group. "I've already gathered everything I need. Your little games have been documented. Your misconduct is all on record." She pulled out a stack of papers and placed them on the table. The officers exchanged nervous glances as Lina continued. "You didn't think someone would be watching, did you? You thought your power, your connections, and your badge would protect you forever. But what you didn't know is that I've been keeping track of everything, every complaint, every tip, every report." The senior officer, the one who had been the most vocal earlier, shifted uneasily. "You're bluffing," he muttered, but there was doubt in his voice now. Lena raised an eyebrow, not breaking her stare. Bluffing? You can call it whatever you want, but this is the truth. You may have fooled some people, but you didn't fool me. And now the truth is out for everyone to see. She slid the documents across the table, and the officers hesitated before looking at them. What they saw on those pages wasn't just accusations, it was hard evidence, photos, witness statements, and even surveillance footage of their actions. They had been so confident and comfortable in their positions that they never thought anyone could gather such evidence. Everything you've done, every dirty little secret you thought you buried, is about to be exposed, Lena added. I'm not just here to be the new boss. I'm here to make sure you all face the consequences for your actions. The officers fell silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. They had spent their careers acting without fear of punishment, but now they realized they were no longer in control. Lena had turned the tables, and there was no way out for them. The evidence was undeniable, and their manipulation of the system was coming to an end. One of the officers, usually the calmest, now looked rattled. But how? How did you get all of this? He asked, his voice shaky. Lena didn't hesitate. I've been working undercover, gathering the right information. I knew something like this was happening, and I knew you'd get careless eventually. Her words hit like a punch. They had underestimated her. They had thought she would be just another boss, but she was so much more. They had always seen Lena as just another figurehead, someone they could push around. But she had outsmarted them at their own game, and now they were the ones trapped with no way to escape. Lena paused, letting the full weight of her words sink in. You didn't think I'd be the one to bring you down, did you? She asked, almost as if speaking to herself. You thought you were untouchable, but you were wrong. I've been watching, and now it's time for the world to know what you've been doing. The room fell silent. The officers who had once been so confident now stood powerless. Lena had done more than just expose their corruption. She had taken control of the narrative and shifted the power completely. They had believed they could walk away from their crimes, thinking their badge would always protect them. But they were wrong. Lena was in charge now, and the corrupt cops were about to learn that no one, not even them, could escape justice forever. The silence in the room grew heavier as Lena's words echoed in the officers' minds. They had no arguments left, no excuses to hide behind. The evidence was clear, their actions exposed. They stood there powerless, knowing that their reign of corruption was finally over. The system they had once manipulated had caught up with them, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. As Lena looked around at the officers, she knew she had done what was needed. It wasn't just about their punishment. It was about restoring trust in the department, and in the community they had failed. She had come into this position with a single goal: to end the culture of corruption that had poisoned the department for years. And today, that goal was becoming a reality. The senior officer who had spoken up earlier, still clinging to a shred of confidence, was escorted out of the room. His smug expression was gone, replaced with defeat. It was clear he and the others were no longer in control of their fate. The charges were coming, and the public would know the truth. Their years of abuse could no longer be hidden behind closed doors. The other officers who had stood by in silence now felt Lena's unwavering scrutiny, knowing their actions had finally caught up with them. Their choices, the years of turning a blind eye, had finally caught up with them. They had been complicit in a system that thrived on corruption, thinking they could avoid the consequences. But Lena's unwavering stance had shown them that no one is above the law, not even them. Lena paused for a moment, reflecting on the journey that had led her here. She wasn't there to gloat or make a spectacle out of their fall. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about creating a department that could be trusted, where officers were held accountable, and where the community didn't have to fear the very people who were meant to protect them. Lena knew this was only the beginning. The officers in front of her would face the consequences. But there were others out there, who had been just as complicit. It was only a matter of time before they too would be held accountable. Lena's job wasn't just about taking down a few bad officers. It was about rebuilding the department from the inside out. The department had been rotten, but with each action taken to expose corruption, it was beginning to heal. As the officers were led away, Lena felt a quiet satisfaction, not in their defeat, but in knowing she had done what was necessary to restore integrity to the department. It wasn't just about making sure those who had wronged others paid for their actions. It was about setting a new standard, one that would prevent corruption from taking root again. The moral of the story was simple. No one is above the law. Corruption might go unchecked for a while, but eventually, the truth comes to light. Power, when abused, will always find its way back to the people who rightfully hold it, the public. Lena had shown that with integrity and courage, real change was possible. She had faced a system that seemed impossible to change and proven it could be done. For Lena, this victory wasn't personal. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, about creating a world where power is used to protect and serve, not to control and manipulate. Today was just one chapter in a much larger fight for fairness, accountability, and integrity. The work wasn't over, but Lena knew that as long as she kept moving forward, change would come. With Lena in charge, the department would never return to the way it was before. The story of Lena Rodriguez shows us something powerful. Justice isn't always easy, and standing up for what's right can come with a personal cost. But in the end, it's worth it. Lena didn't just expose corruption. She set a new standard for what it means to serve the public. Her courage and determination remind us all that integrity matters, no matter the obstacles in our way. If you were in Lena's shoes, would you have had the strength to face down those corrupt officers, knowing what was at stake? Or would you have backed down? Would you have stood up for what's right, even when it seemed like the system was against you? We want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where doing the right thing seemed impossible? Share your stories in the comments below. What was the outcome and what did you learn? If you found this story inspiring, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We've got more unforgettable stories coming your way, stories about courage, justice, and real change. Stay tuned because the fight for truth isn't over.